Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Kerbal Space Program playthrough. This episode, I tried to launch someone into orbit. Let's get started. So I'm gonna load up Batman. Okay, so basically, to clear the skies... I've actually gotten rid of our previous satellite. And also, because I'm really bad at it, I'm just going to use a pre-designed thing I found on the internet. So, let's load that up. Okay, so what I've managed to steal from the internet is a replica of the Vostok spacecraft that launched Yuri Gagarin into orbit. Now, the more historical of you may notice that it is a parachute, whereas the real one didn't. That's because there are no personal parachutes in this game, which is how Yuri Gagarin got back to Earth. But yeah, basically, it's a pretty simple design. That's the pod there, and in there is going to be my personal favourite Kerbal in the whole game, Jebediah Kerman. You'll see why quite soon, I'd say. So I've organised the staging. This is the first stage of these boosters, and then we activate the main engine, and then it separates. Very simple design. So let's hope this works, and we will launch. So I know it looks kind of puny, but you'll see what happens when it takes off. So we'll turn on OR and RCS and SAS. Jebediah seems to be raring to go, and we are going to get him into a nice, stable, circular orbit of 100 kilometers above the Earth. So it's just going to be a nice, stable orbit, and then we're going to bring him home, and I'll guide you through how to do that. So the link to the rocket design will be in the description because it's really good, and we're ready for launch. Okay, destroy the boosters. I love how they're sort of flipping around as they come back to Earth. Okay, so now I just need to keep an eye on this. We're not nearly high enough yet. So once we get to 10,000, I'm going to begin the turn. Now, this ship has RCS like the last one, so that helps with turning. There we go. Oh, that's not on course at all. Oh, okay. Let's fix that. Yeah. Now this, for me, is a pretty routine operation. Now the orbit is going to have an inclination, unfortunately, because I messed up there. So it's like we're actually going to be leaning. The orbit is not going to be... It's going to be a circle, but it's going to be leaning. Which isn't the worst thing that could happen, to be honest. Like, it could just explode. Now we just need to wait for that to get up to 100. I'm just going to... But this is going to run out of fuel in a sec. There we go. It was much easier to turn them when they're here. Okay. So that is nearly at 100 kilometers, and then we can brake and let it do the rest of the work. We're nearly in space. So basically this is pretty similar operation to the last one, except this time we've got to get back with a man, which kind of complicates the whole arrangement. Okay, and we're going to cut the engine, and we're just going to let this little thing drift off. If you look at it, it actually looks pretty vulnerable, like all the way up here on its own, which makes me worry. So I'm going to add one of those maneuver nodes. I don't have to, but it looks nicer. So I'm going to have a pro-grade burn, which means firing, as I explained last time, firing in the direction of the orbit. So we want them about the same. And we're in space. Okay. Right. So we're actually going to have to perform 2 burns. Because of the way it's inclined, I'm actually going to have to perform a second burn once I come around to circularize the whole thing. So hopefully this will turn out alright. So I'm going to aim at that. Sorry about the notifications. Next time I'll go offline before I record. So basically aiming at that means that when we get to the node, it will be in the right position. I must admit, it adds a whole new dimension to it when it's manned, because it's actually, you kind of worry for him. Now, you see him there. He's in space, and he's happy. One time I accidentally crashed the rocket. Up until the point where it hit the ground, he looked like he was having the time of his life. I'm not quite sure what's wrong with him, but he seems to be the perfect astronaut, so whatever. Okay, so we're now... I'm going to fire about 30 seconds in advance of the burn. Hopefully we have enough fuel. I'd say we do. All this needs to do is get us into orbit, because it's pretty easy to get back. I say that, and this is of course going to be the episode where I lose a Kerbal in space, probably. Okay, so you notice here that we've got quite a bit of burning to do, because I could have inclined the rocket more horizontally, which would have made it easier, but whatever. I didn't, so deal with it. It's pretty tense. We're about halfway through the burn. We're gonna have enough fuel to get back. That's no problem. Because if you're landing on another planet, which spoilers we'll be doing in the next episode, it's much. You have to get a nice vertical descent, whereas when you're landing on Kerbin, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's just stop and see what we've got. Yep, that's close enough. Okay, so I know I'm miles off this, but whatever. So now I could just finish here because I'm high up enough that I won't fall, but for my own satisfaction I'm going to try and get a circular orbit. So I'm going to add a maneuver here. It's called a circularization burn. So I want to be about... You want to have them about the time that they flip, so that is pretty much perfect. So when I come all the way around, I'll be able to do a burn, but that's in 23 minutes. Now obviously I'm not going to make you sit through all that, but I thought it might be interesting to see how having a Kerbal on this affects it. So there are any number of things you can do, including extra vehicular activities, which might not be the best plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold F9. Oh wait, that was loading. Okay, it's alright. F5, I've quick saved, which means if this goes horribly wrong, I can send Jebediah back a few minutes. So I'm going to perform an EVA. So, okay. So Jebediah is a jetpack, which I can activate. So I'm going to let go. This is a very bad idea. You guys can tell, can't you? Okay, his jetpack is activated. Now hopefully I should be able to just swing back whenever I wish. Even if this doesn't work, yeah, there we go. Okay, so you can see he's out of his spacecraft. Now, one thing this is something that Yuri Gagarin certainly did not do. This first spacewalk was much later. But one thing I don't like about how spacewalks work in this game is that there are no tethers, because it will be really handy if you were sort of tied onto the ship. But I'm just going to let him bounce around for a bit. Now you can attempt... Oh, no, it's gone very far away. Oh dear. I'm going to get him to grab back on. Give me 2 minutes. No. Grab it. No! See, this is why I quick saved. So I'll just fire up. Because this is space, there is no air resistance to slow me down. So the law of every action is an equal and opposite reaction becomes true, which means that every time... Well, it doesn't mean this, but anyway, he's back on and he's safe. And my maneuver node's gone, but I can bring it back in a second. So, basically, every move you make in space must be counted by an equal force, otherwise you will just continually spin. So for example, if I start spinning here, oh no, sorry, I've got SAS turned on. If I start spinning, I'm not stopping, and I will continue to do that until something slows me down. But to slow it down, I have to do the opposite direction and equalize them. And now I'm stationary again, so I'm in the wrong direction. So I'll just fix that. And I'll just fix my maneuver node again, because when you go, this is the other thing I don't like, when you go EVA, then oh no, wait, that's too high. We want when it flips, which is much earlier. When you go in an EVA, your maneuver nodes are lost for some reason. I think that's because the game is in alpha. Oh, and my ship is now spinning. See what I mean? Basically, having SAS on means that it will automatically do that for you and counter for everything. So that's another 20 minutes, so we can fast forward a little bit here. So we're now on the dark side of the Earth. Now, if I had been a bit more clever, I would have stuck solar panels on this, just on the sides, so that it would be, I wouldn't have to take it down, because, well, I'm gonna take it down anyway, but like I wouldn't have to take it down as quickly. I've still got plenty of electric charge left there, but basically, Jebediah is in a good way. For some reason, oxygen and food don't matter, so I could actually, if I had the electricity, I could send him in orbit around this forever and he would be fine. He wouldn't die, and then I could bring him back at any time. Whereas, of course, realistically, you'd either hit some space debris, which obviously doesn't exist because, like, we haven't fired very many rockets, or he would die of lack of oxygen first, and then water, and then food. And then he'd probably just get bored and jump off. So, yeah, there's a happy thought for you. I'm going to fast forward a bit. So that's a feature that hasn't been added. I hope it isn't, because it kind of ruins extra intraplanetary voyages. We've still got a fair bit to go. This is going to be a very short burn, as you can see, which is great, because we're only about half full of fuel and we need quite a bit to get back to Earth. Fun fact, actually, did you know that you only need 1/6 of your entire fuel supply for a massive rocket is used for getting off Earth? Now, if you're noticing I'm not failing as much, I've actually had a bit of practice since the last video, because I've been practicing for episode 3, which is going to be a big event. This is the episode where we land on one of Kerbin's moons. Kerbin is sort of the Earth thing. Now, if I was smart, I'd do that with monopropellant, but I've already used it all up, so get rid of that. Are we nice and circular? Could be a bit more circular. 118, 117. 120, 117. And that'll do, because fixing it would take too much effort. So I can now get rid of this, and we have a lovely circular orbit. So if you can do EVAs, which are extravehicular activities, you can also do IVAs, which are interior activities. So at the moment you can't really do anything. I'd like to hope later on they'll add sort of being able to move between docked ships and things. You can do that just through a button press, but it'd be more fun if you could actually to spacewalk between the two. So you can see that this is a pretty rubbish command pod. There are some quite good ones. There's Jebediah there. It's a pretty rubbish one because there's no the viewing window is pretty tiny, but it's still pretty impressive. So I'm going to X out of this, and yeah, we're pretty much set. So now we come to the sort of more exciting bit, because you've kind of seen this in this satellite video. I just wanted to kind of do it in order. If I was doing it completely in order, next thing would be to send a probe to one of the moons. But see, Kerbin has 2 moons. Now, you might think the logical choice would be to land on the Mun, which is the closer of the 2. However, I'm actually better off trying to land on Minimus, because Minimus is, Minimus is much smaller, as you may have guessed from the name. So it's worth giving that a go instead, which means there's less gravity and there's less likelihood you'll just fall to your death. I love that music. I hope they add a few more music tracks later in development, but I'm happy with the current music, but a bit more in sort of the same theme would be cool. So yeah, so next episode I'm gonna try and land on Minimus, and then get home, which I've actually never done. Like, I've been practicing for this and I've managed to get him there, but I've never quite got him back. So that's something to work on. It's pretty tough doing that. So I'm gonna set a maneuver node and I'm gonna bring him home. Now this is the more exciting bit because you get to see what happens. So we just want to bring it in. See, as I said before, when you're trying to land on another planet, it's far easier to just now we're going to land on the dark side, but I think the planet will rotate a bit by the time we get there. So we're landing on the dark side of the Earth. So hopefully this will go okay. You don't need a straight down thing for Kerbal because it's mostly water and you can use parachutes. Same with some other planets, the larger planets you can obviously use parachutes. Whereas for the moons, so if you're landing on one of like these, you can use a parachute because I think there's enough sort of weird atmosphere to deal with it. Whereas on a moon you have to go straight down, otherwise you will land sort of on the side, and that's really hard to do because your landing legs break off. Believe me, I've done that a lot. So I'm not sure whether we're going to land in the sea or what, because we're landing here and I can't see there. So right, so I'm going to fast forward a bit and take us to the end. Oh, I should probably set up this. Just get this into this view for you. You notice that Jebediah doesn't sort of have a look of glee as opposed to a look of I'm not sure what that sound means, but there you go. I find that a little creepy. I'm not quite sure what's wrong with him, but maybe he's just a thrill seeker. Okay, so this again can be quite a short burn. It's going to be 7 seconds, which is good because we've got plenty of fuel, but it just makes our job easier. Okay, and we can start firing. Basically, there we go, we're not in orbit anymore, so we can cut that, and so we're going to be landing somewhere, which is good. Bear in mind that you always land, if you think you're going to land here, you're actually going to land about there, because of the way air resistance works. That doesn't work on other planets, but that's how it works for Earth. So we're now on a nice little trajectory, so I'm going to kill that, and I'm just going to fast forward the bit up top, but I'm going to let you watch re-entry. Now you're not going to be able to see it as well as I'd hoped because we're on the dark side, so it's nighttime, and we've re-entered. So we're now back in the Earth's atmosphere. I'm going to call it the Earth even though it's Kerbal. What's the way of our orbit? So you kind of want to point in the direction of the orbit. It doesn't matter too much, but it kind of looks better. I'm going to jettison the final stage, which propels me forward a bit faster. So you notice that this is wiggling. That's because if I let the SAS on, I actually turn to go backwards. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm sure there's a physics reason, but so I'm gonna just turn SAS off because I know I'm gonna spin hopelessly, and it's just better off to let it do its thing. So we're now sort of in the exosphere, so you're not gonna see much yet, but there's gonna be some fireworks, let me tell you. You can see Jebediah has just been delighted through this whole affair. Now, what I could do if I just wanted to have a bit of a laugh is I could have him jump out now, but there's no point to that. I have actually tried it. They cannot survive it, even if you put full power on the jetpack and use a cheat to make the jetpack of infinite fuel. They will not slow down enough. You can. I think I've heard somewhere that if you you can land on Minmus by jumping off and using your jetpack and landing and then jetpacking back up, but I think it's pretty tricky and I'm not sure how it works, so I'm not going to do that when we end up doing it. Okay, so we are spinning, which is probably not the best thing. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit for you guys because there's a lot of spinning. Spinning some more. Okay, you can notice from the atmosphere thing here that when you get into the blue, then some interesting things happen as opposed to the sort of this dark blue. Okay, we're on fire. Now, this fire actually doesn't harm you, which is a bit weird. See, notice that the nav wall is it's not, gravity is just correcting us onto facing away from our orbit. So notice I haven't deployed the parachute yet because we're still pretty high up and it might burn. There we go. There's a good shot. So you can hear just the sound of burning, which you may start to panic at, but that's actually completely normal for anyone who knows a bit about space travel, which is probably not many of you. This normally happens because as I said, it's in alpha. There is no harmful effect for fire yet. I'm sure they will be. I'm kind of not looking forward to some of these additions. I'm looking forward to personal parachutes if they bring them in, and sort of a campaign mode, which would be brilliant. I'm not looking forward to sort of the more realistic damage things, because this looks quite like a resilient pod, whereas you can get sort of less resilient ones that hold more people, and I'm not sure how it's going to work, but hopefully it will. So we're still a bit above Earth, so we can... Oh, how are we on the map? So you notice I think we were going to land here, and we end up landing there, and you see it's constantly moving. Because the air resistance is pushing from us sort of this way. Which means we're going to be more inclined to come down, which is good, because it just makes my job easier. So I think we're low enough now that I'm going to detonate the parachute. Now the parachute, by setting up the parachute, all it does is just has it... Oh, phew, I thought that flew away. All it has is sort of have it up there. That won't actually slow your speed. It's only slowing due to air resistance. When you're 500 meters above the ground, now that's 500 meters above... That's not 500 meters above sea level, which is what this measures. We're actually going to be landing on soil, like terra firma. So it will open a bit earlier than that, but it slows you way down, which is brilliant, because Kerbin's one of the easiest planets to land on. I know that sounds weird, because obviously that's where you start, but it's quite easy to land on because air resistance slows you down a bunch, and parachutes are really useful. I'm sure it's just as easy to land on other large planets, but it's so hard to get to them that it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna fast forward a bit, because you go, look how slow, like that's sort of walking speed towards, and we've got like 1,000 meters to cover, or like 200 or something, I'm not sure. So I know it looks like we're heading to the ground extremely fast, but if I stop fast forwarding, we're actually heading towards the ground quite fast. Hope this works. It's going to be a bumpy landing. Oh, okay, we're alright. It's actually preferable to try and land in the sea if you can, but I decided not to actually bother with that. So now what I should actually do now is try to recover the vessel, but as a last little treat, I'm going to get Jebediah out. Now he's in his spacesuit, because obviously this is designed for him to sort of walk around in space. Now notice, I just want you to take note of how he sort of waddles and how his jump is pretty pathetic, because that's going to come into play later on. I'm going to turn on his jetpack, and he's going to fly around a bit. Oh. Yeah, that's another thing to note. You can't actually take off in the jetpack in this. Now, if I wanted to be really cruel and waste my own time, I could have him walk and swim to... Where is it? I can't find it. I could have him walk back to the Space Center, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to get him to get back in. Actually, do you know what? For a laugh, just so you have a good contrast made up. Historically, he is planting a flag. No need for that little thing, because it will actually flap in the wind here. Site name. Home. So this is how this is naming, you can plant flags and then name the sites, and then you can see them from the map view, which is quite a cool feature. Here we landed on an alien planet. Or we went wildly off course and went back home again. Either one. So now you can see this, and you can read the plaque, which is a pretty rubbish plaque. I've spelled again wrong, but whatever. So I'm gonna go back to the space fence, blah blah, there you go. I'm going to go back to the Space Center. I'm going to go to the tracking station. And because he came home safely. Why is... Oh. Alright, yeah. So you see, notice that there are 3 flights in progress, which are actually... There's the Wayne Orbiter, which is the craft. Jebediah himself, who got out. And Home, which is actually not flight, it's a flag. So I don't know why it vibrates like that. I'm sure it's a bug. So I'm going to recover those 2. I'm going to leave Home, the home flag where it is, because it's a nice reference point as to somewhere. I don't know why, but... Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that episode. I know there wasn't as many failures, but it's because I'm better at this game. Don't worry, there'll be plenty of failures in our next episode, which is going to be a double-length special, I'd say. It's going to be a double episode, or maybe a triple episode, depending on how quickly I fail or do it correctly. I'm going to try and get to Minimus. Getting back is not terribly important to me, so I'm going to probably just leave him there. I'm not going to build Jebediah, because he's my favourite. I'm going to bring... okay, so basically these are some rubbish names, so I'm just going to pick one. So who do we want to die? So I can't obviously pick him, because that's completely racist to kill him off. That's pretty similar to my brother's name. Bartsy. Oh, okay. Bartsy, you're going to be stranded on Minmus, because I find your name so amusing that I just want to be able to look on the map and say, Bartsy Kerman. Like, what? That is the stupidest name ever. I don't get why they're all called Kerman. I think it's just the way it is. Okay, anyway, so thank you for watching. Next episode will be my attempt to land on Minmus. So, see you guys next time. Bye!